right, we are back with another episode of Let's Talk Trades, and we have Mr. Roberto Gomez back on the show again. How are things going?
Things are going great, John Tay, and thanks for having me back on the show again. It's always great to talk to a fellow tradesperson about all the stuff going on in the industry and all the fun stuff we got going on. How are things going with you?
I'm going to be honest with you. I travel a lot, and I stay busy with my current position, and I still get calls asking about things for the trades, and one of the things I never do is I never turn down anybody who has a question. So that's one of my biggest reasons for starting this entire podcast. So, how about yourself?
No, everything's going good. Since you came last time, you came and saw our facility, right? You got to tour everything. Since the last time you've come, we've got a large group of young people who are going to complete our program. These are young people we've been incubating for years. As you know, it's a very long-term investment, which I think is the only way something like this should be done anyway, right? And we've talked about why, and I can go into that here. But I think things are pretty good. I mean, I think our formula is going to be tested this year. June 6th is when these kids are going to be graduating or have a GED. And we'll be placing them with the trades. In fact, just today in our facility, we had the iron workers come by and we had a long discussion about, yeah, seriously, about placements for young people in the trades, and almost how easy it is. And one of the things they told me today, as we were talking about the minimum requirements, which you and I have spoken about several times, and I'll go into on this podcast, is they said, listen, uh, at this point, we don't even care if you have a GED. I kid you not. They said that, or a high school diploma. And I said, well, I'm not going to tell our kids that because we got to make sure that we're not preaching the message of school doesn't matter. But what they said was, if you can perform the math requirements that we have on our aptitude test, whether you have a GED or not, we'll bring you in to an apprenticeship program with us, right? And I thought that was phenomenal. And what I told them was, um, direct entry is a great thing. Entry to registered apprenticeship programs are great things, and knowing that the trades are, I don't want to say desperate, but so in urgent need of skilled workers that they're starting to lower the requirements for young people, or adults looking for a career change uh, to get in. That for our youth, and we work with Black and Latino low income youth, right? So it's a challenge. Everything from education to home stability is a challenge. But what I was grateful that they said that for was, well, as a parachute, as a nuclear option, even if our kids don't graduate, we know we can still place them with the trades, right? We know they still have a path in the trade that pays a livable wage. By the way, in this locality, the iron workers are proud to tell me that they paid start at 24.50 an hour, right? Yeah,
It's not
24.
bad.
Not at all. I mean, listen, if I'm an 18-year-old young man or young woman or young person, and you're telling me I can enter directly into an apprenticeship program. And here's another thing they said. They said, Roberto, what we love about your program, and Jonte, you would know this because you've been there. We love that you can teach them the skill sets. We think that's really great. But what we love even more is the fact that you're teaching them the professional skills. You're helping them with bank accounts. You're helping them with birth certificates. You're getting them a valid driver's license. They said, shit, we can teach them the rest on the job, and in the apprenticeship program. And I said, well, I mean, yeah, that's true, but we do pride ourselves on sending out trained construction ninjas into 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 these registered apprenticeship programs. So, in short, that's how everything's been going for me. Um, and I'd like to kind of just freestyle here, if that's okay with you, on some of the things that you and I have talked about. But first, I'd like to hear your response on kind of the stuff that I just said. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so honestly, like I said, the steel workers they're on the right track. So you know to be 100% honest and transparency. 7 years ago, that's what I was recruited to do, to start a training program. And like we said, the we are hiring more green employees pathways and training them to what we need in the industry. And we it's gotten to the point where you can't depend on the school systems anymore because
Oh my
we don't
God.
we don't have enough trades in the schools. To be one hundred
Well,
percent honest with you.
and Jonte, just to jump in here, I even showed you here in our locality, and this is where I'm confused at. I'm not sure if it's coming down from the Department of Education on a federal level, or if it changes at the state level, or if it somehow changes at a local level. But what I've seen, and I remember I showed you this when you came by, is that the career pathway models at the school level, right, are barriers in themselves that include things like minimum GPA requirements, et cetera, attendance requirements. Well, let's talk about the people who need these opportunities the most. Let's talk about the people that are the hungriest to take these jobs on. You're talking about the roughnecks, right? You're talking about the dudes from the street. You're talking about young people who are not going to college. You're talking about young people who will not join the military. And I don't blame them, right? When you talk about what you're doing, and I remember you told me that you were recruited to start these pipelines, and you've had a lot of success in what you're doing. I think it's only natural to figure out in the industry and as a society, really, if you will, where we're going in the workforce and how do we get people skilled and trained, or at least the minimum entry level requirements, which we just talked about. Bank account, uh, government issued ID, having a birth certificate, what you need to apply for a job. In some cases, a driver's license. In other cases, a GED or high school diploma. As far as education, in some cases, that's not even required. Well, yeah, that's what we need to be thinking about doing. We need to be thinking about at a school level how not to put barriers in place for young people to take on skill set development, but instead how to make it easier for them to get these skills, right? Because I mean, you think about these minimum GPA requirements, all this other nonsense, and I'll just be quite frank with you, I think it's complete nonsense because what you have under the academy model and these career pathways is you have these barriers like minimum GPA requirements, et cetera. And what the career pathways are made up of are young people who would otherwise be going to college or exploring, whatever they might be doing. In most cases, have strong family support at home or, focused on education because they can meet the requirements, who are in most cases, or not, I don't want to say most cases, but in many cases, only a part of this career pathway because they're going to put it on their college resume, right? Or their college application, which means that these career pathways at the school level are being seeded by folks who don't even want to go into those pathways anyway. They might be doing it because it's a fun elective kind of mentality, right? And that's not how we need to be thinking. When we talk about, and you and I have spoken about this, right? The data that shows on a national level, right, by 2031, 41% of the skilled construction industry is going to be gone overnight. Well, shit, we probably should be thinking about how we're going to replenish it. We probably should be thinking about not only how we're going to replenish it, how we're going to replenish it with people who are going to take on lifelong careers in that field, right? Not just it's a fun job. I'll get my feet wet and see if I like the temperature of the water. No, how I'm going to change my life by being an electrician, because all of a sudden, if I'm a master electrician and I'm working for a company, I'm making, 150, 160, $170,000 a year. Or if I open my own company, which the trades have done for me, as you know, right? And I'm not a millionaire. I was just going to use that as an example. You could potentially reach millions of dollars. And we said this before. I didn't say it as gracefully as I'm about to say now, but even the CEO of NVIDIA, remember I pronounced it wrong last time, um,
That's right.
it is saying, right, that the next class of millionaires, think about that, not couple people, the next class of millionaires is going to be made up by electricians, plumbers, right? Your construction guys. Well, why is that? Well, there's a number of reasons. There's the labor shortage, which is real, right? And then there's the labor boom in regards to things that need to be built to support AI infrastructure. And I have told you this, and you've told me back. We've gone back and forth about this, about the very real, soon to be white collar job apocalypse. I mean, it's gonna happen. This isn't a theory. This isn't sci-fi, right? This isn't the Terminator movie. This is legitimately something we need to look ahead towards in regards to what jobs are going to be left standing. And the irony, as I've said before, about AI displacing a ton of workers is the fact that it creates jobs for builders, right? Because who's building these data centers? It's not your Wall Street captains of industry, right? It's it's your roughnecks, it's your electricians, it's your carpenters, it's your concrete guys, it's all these things that we need to be talking about getting our young people into, especially our vulnerable populations who otherwise wouldn't be going to college anyway. And and I said this before, that whole mentality of college is the only way to success. People are quickly realizing that part of my language, that was a load of bullshit because there are people in college right now, there are young people in college right now, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, that are studying for degrees where the jobs won't exist anymore.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
yeah, I've told you this before as well. And let's talk about the debt they're going to come home to, and how the hell they're gonna pay that when they're looking for jobs at places like Subway and Chipotle. Which, by the way, I've mentioned this to you before. Look at articles in the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. Look at any major publisher of news in regards to what's happening in workforce. And these jokers, these CEOs are laying off people by the tens of thousands at a time, right? There is no more entry level internship jobs for people in certain career paths. And, I mentioned computer science. I don't mean to pick on computer science, but AI can code practically better than a human can code. And that's right now. Let's talk about what it's going to be able to do 6 months from now, right? So, I wanted to touch on that because we're in for some interesting times ahead. And I mentioned this before as well. Um, we will not have seen a disruption to the job market and the workforce like what we're about to see since the Industrial Revolution, right? We are going to see so many jobs lost so fast, right? And it's scary. But you know who it's not scary for? I'm not here to fearmonger anybody. But you know who it's not scary for? Guys like us, Jonte. Because guess what? AI is not 3D printing, running entire, Romex through a home. It's not happening. Not yet,
That's
anyway.
right.
Robots are not, installing flooring or finishing drywall or doing, carpentry or concrete work or anything like that. And, I mentioned this to you before. One of my concerns is, at least for what we do in our program, and for those of you who don't know Cornerstone, I encourage you to look at cornerstonecraftsman.org, um, our website. We train young people, but we target a very specific demographic of people, young people who otherwise wouldn't have a bite at the apple, so to speak, right? These young people, if it's not construction, it's probably the street. And I can tell you this, rapping is not going to be their career, right? And I say that jokingly and lovingly, but it's true, right? I mean, these young people live in scenarios where they're food insecure, right? Where they might not have access to laundry to even get clean clothes. I mean, where they don't know what making money looks like unless it's either working at McDonald's or selling drugs, right? Or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
So the pathways that we've provided, and at this time where we're focused on replenishing the workforce with people who need opportunity. And by the way, the people who need opportunity, they're the hungriest. They're the people that are going to work the hardest. They're the people that are going to appreciate working with their hands even in the cold or the heat and be able to deal with it because they're used to not having anything, right? Um, and I mean, I came from that. So, I mean, I say that passionately and personally, where once I said, oh my God, I can run, I can run recessed lights and I can change receptacles and switch out switches or paint a room and I can make this amount of money. Are you kidding me? I mean, it was like a healthy addiction, if you want to call it that, right? I mean, because that's the kind of lucrative opportunities that exist in the trades, you know? No one else is offering things like, and I say this like specifically about union apprenticeship programs, registered apprenticeship programs, although in some cases not even that, but pensions, 401ks, benefits, right? Room for growth, work vehicles. I mean, what else? You know what I mean? Where the pay scale is livable depending on the locality that you're in. You know what I mean? You go to work at McDonald's, you're getting McDonald's wages pretty much wherever they're paying, right? It's pretty much a flat fee with maybe some variation in consideration of cost of living. The trades, though, in every locality. You go to New York, to Texas, to California, to Washington, D.C., to Virginia, to Tennessee, to Wyoming. The electricians are making enough money to live, right? The framers are making enough money to live. The floor guys are making enough money to live. Hell, the painters are making enough money to live, right? And that is what we should be talking about as a nation. And looking towards the future of workforce, and it's going to be a lot of human interaction, like medical, construction, the trades, right? These are things that you don't need to go to Harvard, right? I'm a Harvard man or whatever, an Ivy League school. You don't got to go there to make that kind of money. In fact, most of the people that covet those kind of Ivy League schools or the traditional education, higher education route are in for a big surprise. And I've said this before. I'm not shitting on higher education. I think educating yourself is very important in many different aspects of life. But I can tell you this, um, whether you have an education or not, you better hope there's a job waiting for you and you can make a living. Otherwise, you just wasted a bunch of time because what do we all go to school for? Let's really think about this for a second. Um, in regards to what we preach to kids since elementary, right? You need to focus on your education. Your attendance needs to be here because you might miss something because you need to learn what you have to learn when you go to middle school and in middle school, where you better be here because you need to get good grades in high school if any colleges are going to look at you, right? And what does college ultimately provide? An ability to provide for yourself in a comfort of lifestyle, right? Everybody wants to, unless you're born into wealth, everybody wants to climb up to a point in life where you don't have to worry about how you're going to feed yourself, right? Guess who's going to soon? And it's even worse because it's not just like certain folks are going to have to worry about feeding themselves. You're going to have to worry about feeding yourself while also paying back all that college debt, right?
Exactly.
So what what is the future? And the future is knowing that AI is about to automate so many jobs, right? I mean, so many, right? And I said this before again, not as gracefully, but it's going to get to a point where I mean, even let's think about now. In some cases, even in executive positions, CEOs. I mean, and I said this, a well-trained monkey can do it, right? If you think about the repetitiveness about what they're doing with the exception of shareholder interest, which is basically how can we make the most money at any given time, which in this day and age means if we can invest in AI and cut a bunch of our workforce to maximize profits, let's do that, right? When we think about what's about to happen to the world, right? It's going to be like the Wild West, right? And I said this again too as what I sit in a lot of different rooms now, both nationally and on a state level and on a local level, right? And I don't say this to brag because I'm a very humble person, but everybody and their mama is trying to figure out how to develop career workforce pipelines for young people, right? I said this in the last one. It's an arms race, and I'm not joking. It literally is an arms race. How can we, knowing that the job market's going to shift, the education system's going to shift, how can we quickly and efficiently develop workforce pipelines where we're training youth in skill set development and plugging them right into careers right outside of high school? I mean, sometimes I think about it and sometimes I chuckle and other times I kind of get a little anxious. But I think the future of what we're doing is going to be looking like something like, what's that movie, Divergent? Or like Harry Potter, you going into a very specific, a school within a school to focus in on your area of expertise. Because what's going to be needed now is people to maintain infrastructure, right? People to throw up new buildings. I mean, and there's been articles about this as well, and I encourage the listeners to go research. I mean, the fact that we have such a delta in our workforce and the future of workforce, and we didn't think to replenish it, is slowly becoming a national security threat. How are we going to
Yeah.
maintain our infrastructure? How are we going to build new infrastructure? Hell, who's going to come and fix your toilet at home? Right? It's a problem. But it also creates a lot of opportunity because the trades need folks. And here's the great thing. I was talking about full circle moments. Okay, so how can developing preemptively workforce pipelines that lead to the trades work for everybody? How does that make sense? What does that look like? Here's one of many examples. So, uh, depending on who you're speaking to in the workforce development circle and which area of workforce you're talking about, let's use construction in this case because that's my field of expertise. Um, there's, well, yeah, I mean, we need to recruit a workforce, but we also need to land jobs in order to even have the work in the first place. And I say to myself, well, yeah, no, that's completely legitimate. But let's talk about what bettering our communities look like. In many cases, people would say, well, we got to build nicer stuff. Well, if we're building nicer stuff, that means we're tearing down older stuff. Certain things like housing development projects, affordable housing, things like that. We're displacing people by hundreds of families, if not thousands, right, on a daily basis in every city across the nation, while new buildings are growing up, right? So, in theory, not just in theory, actually, it's a thing. While demolition is happening, which is construction based, by the way, right, and new buildings are going up, right, in those places that are being gentrified, be them condos or businesses or whatever the case may be. There's jobs being created, livable paying wage jobs in that locality. If we were thinking ahead and thinking smart in regards to our maintenance needs and our development needs and our infrastructure needs as these projects are going on, we would be having very specific conversations about developing a workforce who has a chance to take on those jobs as they're being created in that locality. So the money stays in that local economy, right? But also there's a macro effect to the economic scale in which we're talking because those people will not only be contributing to that little locality, but the GDP, right? What does it look like for someone to earn over a lifetime millions of dollars, right? And what that does for our tax base. And by the way, look it up. I mean, you stay in the trades for a long enough time, you're going to be earning over 100K, right? I mean, easy. Now multiply that by your entire career, you're definitely making millions without question. So, what are we doing here, and why are the trades important? And I said this too in the last one. I mean, um, when you look at, and this is a full circle moment, and it's got to be funny for more than just myself, but when you look at the fact that the things that have stood the test of time uh, were made by builders, right, were made by builders. And we spoke about this. The pyramids in many different cultures, the seven wonders of the world for those of the ones that are still around or that we can even figure out. I mean, we're talking about people who were working with these, right, and people who were working with these, and people who understood mathematics, right, basic fundamental fractions, algebra, geometry, who have created these beautiful testaments to what we as human beings are capable of doing. I mean, even, and now that I think about it as I'm going off on this line of thought, I mean, even think about the space station, right? Well, who worked the metal to mold it to the spots, the things that needed to be fitted into each other, or the bolts, right? Or understanding the electrical that needed to be ran through that, and who ran it before it went up there and we connected it. It wasn't your boy studying to trade stocks on Wall Street. It was men in the trades and women in the trades, right? One of the world's oldest jobs, careers, meaningful things. And we spoke about this as well, with AI coming and what that's going to do. I mean, not only is it going to erase people from being able to provide for themselves and them having to change their entire way of thinking about making money, assuming our current monetary system even still stays in place after that, which is a different conversation. Um, what sense of purpose do you have anymore? Right? If I identify, I'm Roberto Gomez, the executive director of Cornerstone Craftsman, teaching young people in the trades, right, and a small business owner, and an amateur tattoo artist. Psych, I just made that one up. But if I identify as those things, and all of a sudden it's taken away from me, who am I? What am I doing? How am I? What is my purpose in the world? How am I contributing? It's gone. But again, I go back to the fact that you know who will not have that conversation or will be one of the last to have that conversation. You know, uh, your electricians, your plumbers, your carpenters. I mean, everything from an unskilled laborer all the way up to a master is still relevant. And right now, with the dwindling workforce and the high need for us trades folks who know what they're doing, uh, I mean, supply and demand, baby. That what's being paid right now is only going to be higher tomorrow. You better get in right now. You better get in right now. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that stuff, Chante?
Yeah, you're right. And if you start to look on social media and different forms of television and streaming, you're starting to see that the populace is starting to push the narrative for the popularity of the trades,
Oh
and
yeah,
they know that it's needed, so they're starting to change the narrative to make the trades more look at a little bit more familiar and a little bit more popular than it was
Chante, you're
when
being you're
I
being
was
very
in
modest.
school.
You're being
So
very modest. You know
you,
what I like to say? You know what I like to say?
what's that?
We got to make the trade sexy again. You know what I mean? And you're right. They're pushing that narrative because guess what? Uh Folks are starting to realize that whole college is the way to success, that narrative we pushed on kids is bullshit, especially in a time like this where again, and I've read these articles. I encourage you, please go research. This isn't me just coming off the top of my head. This is me being an industry professional, someone with lived experience, someone who knows the need as a small business owner. I mean, we need trades folks, and the people who are studying things that can be automated and replicated through AI bots, which is a scary fucking thing. It's like the Terminator, right? This is how it starts. Um, you know, are going to be struggling to provide for themselves. What have we told these young people? That better pay attention in school. You better raise your hand and ask a question. You better learn. You better study. You better tutor. And all that is fine, right? But to what end? To what end was to get a career? Do you want you want to provide for yourself? You want a family someday? And now these poor fucking kids are looking for work in supermarkets, at fast food chains, which also are going to be automated very soon, by the way. They won't even be
Yeah,
looking for jobs there.
you have more and more self checkout at every grocery store now.
Oh my God. And then they want to see your receipt when you walk out. Hell no, you better bring back humans in here.
Right,
I'm not showing you shit.
right.
You know?
Yeah. One of the things we didn't talk about was the big layoff at Oracle. So those were
What
high
was it?
paying jobs
10,000. It
that
was 10,000
yeah.
folks, wasn't it? And
Hmm.
they're not the only ones. I mean, hell, bro. I mean, look around. I mean, Google, Oracle, Meta.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
and it's not even just the tech bros. It's not even just the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. I mean, I've seen articles where they're starting to lay people off in mass at Home Depot. Keep in mind, those aren't trades, folks, right? We're not talking about hands-on. Those are retail. Don't make a mistake. I mean, unless you're kind of a trade guy who wants a side job and loves to be around products, right? And even McDonald's, right, and other places that would other employ people are cutting their workforce by like 10 to 1 because they don't need humans around anymore. And keep in mind, these CEOs, as I said, their responsibility is to maximize profits for the shareholders, right? And I was actually in this room not too long ago where I was asked to talk about what we're doing successfully at Cornerstone, how we're doing it, why our holistic and like youth centered centralized resource model is a focus. and how we're, essentially creating a successful career pipeline, which I would argue can be transferable to any industry need on in any locality if done the same way. But I digress. Let me get back to what I was saying. So, we're at this innovation thing at the Virginia Tech campus, and it's about AI and what are our thoughts on how we can both use AI to help the workforce, but also understand the potential for it to hurt the workforce. So it's an interactive kind of thing with everybody in the room. And at one point, there was a CEO giving a presentation about the future of workforce. And you'll get a kick out of this one, how essentially CEOs know best about what their workforce needs are. All right. Almost presenting it like I'm a man's man or a woman's woman, and I'm here to make sure everybody has a job. So the funny thing was, I'm a smartass. So the funny thing was, I pulled up Chat GPT, and as this guy's talking about the importance of the human component of whatever they're doing, and him being a CEO, I Chat GPT, what is a CEO's basically highest priority and responsibility in their business structure? And the answer I got back in sum was what I just stated, was just to maximize profits for the shareholders. So I raised my hand and I said, yeah, I hear you saying all that stuff. But here's the funny thing about AI. I literally just use it to ask what your purpose is, right? And, what your mission is in regards to your position in your company, which I didn't say this part, which I'm sure you're making millions to be in. But what is it? And I read it to him. I said, well, Chat GPT says that your priorities and your loyalty lie to making profits. Now, why is that relevant to this conversation? Well, in a bad economy, right? People tend to get desperate, and not just people, entities, including businesses, right? So, what does that look like? Well, if you're desperate, you're willing to take some risks, and you're willing to adopt new things, including, well, shit, our bottom line is not where it should be at. Man, this is terrible, and shoot, we're not making enough money. Hey, what? Oh, you mean, hey, Mr. AI salesman, you mean to tell me if I adopt your technology, I have to invest a few $1,000,000 and that'll pay for itself in less than a year, and I can let go a lot of the people I'm paying, and all of a sudden I'll have repetitive bots that can just do what I need over and over and over. They don't need a lunch break. They don't need a pension. They don't need benefits. They don't need to get paid. I don't need to worry about if they're going to show up on time. Hell yeah, I'll adopt that. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I just did some research, and I think Oracle laid off 30,000
Oh my
employees.
God, I thought it was 10. My mistake.
30,000. So
That had to have been like a
that's
third of their workforce, at least, maybe even 50%.
yeah, part of it was overhiring because of COVID, and they had to get back to pre-COVID numbers. But part of it was because of the implementation of AI agents, and they didn't need as many people as they needed pre-COVID.
Well, I mean, the thing about those AI agents, they're getting more and more efficient, right? And
Exactly.
my theory is this. And for anybody who's listening, when all of a sudden we're in a Terminator situation, you still have internet and you can watch this, you can say Roberto said that years ago. Um, uh, I think that this year we're going to see, if not AGI, pretty close to AGI. I think that as soon as June, which is only a few months away, couple months away, what month are we in? April, May, June, 2 months away. I think we're going to start to see some more mass layoffs. And I think that what saved us thus far, which is like people being like, well, AI is full, it'll never get better than it is, and it hallucinates, and it can never replace humans, and it still needs humans to oversee it and all that other stuff. I think that this year, there's going to be AI bots that no longer require human supervision. Think about it like AI, what you're used to on steroids, right? All this Chat GPT is going to seem like child's play to what AI is capable of. And again, I go back to Well, if all of these things are going to happen and there's going to be a massive labor kind of layoff, uh, who's not getting laid off? Right? And I gotta say, unless all of a sudden you have a robot, Tesla robot, you're gonna sell me for $30 that can paint my own house, I'm gonna have to hire some human folks to come in there and get that done. So, I go back to job security, also livable wages, also just the culture, man. I mean, let's talk about what it's like to be a tradesperson on a job site and part of a crew, right? There's a sense of belonging. You guys fuck with each other in a good way, right? You give each other a hard time. Everybody knows that, right? And the electricians give the plumbers shit. The plumbers give the drywallers shit. It's fun, right? You wake up, and whether the weather sucks or not, I bet you know at least one or two people on your crew that you genuinely like being around, right? There's an entire culture separate from just the pay element of this, community sense of belonging, right? Getting to work with raw materials and turning them into something, right? I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I said, that's how I got started, and even I went to a different pathway, but I still have my licenses and my LLC still active, but that's how I got started to get where I am now through the trades, 100%. And like I said, I was in high school in the late 90s, so I graduated in 1998, and there was no mention of the trades whatsoever.
Did they even
It
have
was
power
only
tools back then, Jonte?
yeah,
I'm just messing with.
yeah. We
I'm
had
just
power
messing.
tools,
Yeah.
but it was nowhere near talking about the trades. You were going to be poor if you didn't go to college. That was the rhetoric that I heard in high school.
Yeah, I mean, they told us, I mean, think about, and I'll say this too. I mean, I'm 2006, not quite 1998, 1999, but think about the picture that was painted for people with the assumption that a plumber was going to come over, right? Like, and I use this exercise quite frequently when I was younger and I thought of plumbers, right? Everything from like TV ads to movies to just the general, mentality of who tradespeople were. You think there's going to be some overweight guy coming in your house with a tool belt hanging down his pants, butt crack showing. It was kind of looked at like you were dumb, right? Like, look at this funny comical character walking through that has to carry a hammer. Poor him, right? That was a complete falsehood that they sold us, right? And you know what? To some degree, the day of reckoning is here because they didn't press these kind of career paths for young people to take on, and they sold us that college narrative, and that's the reason why we have such a labor shortage, right? So jokes on them, and guess who gets to laugh at the end of the day? Guys like us. And I don't say that maliciously. I'm not saying, ha ha, you guys screwed up. What I'm saying is, still we stand and we stand strong. And not only that, life is pretty good. You know what I mean? Job security's fine. Money's fine. And guess what? There's room for growth. How are you doing looking for an internship? Or how's it going struggling to get a pay raise? Right? Have you reached the top of your ladder? Because in this kind of field, as you know, like we said when we first got on this call, sky's the limit. Once you learn how to do what you're supposed to be doing, to your point, you learn those skills, you open your own LLC, and that was a stepping stone to where you are now. But you couldn't have done that unless you knew the trades. So long live the trades, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I agree. So when we talk about what we see, and both of us have a different set of vision. Everyone doesn't see the future for what's coming, and for how the job market is going to totally shift with this advent of AI, and it's happening now. But I still don't think enough people know or realize that it's going to happen a lot faster than what anyone could have imagined with this rollout. 'Cause they are investing billions of dollars in
Oh my
each other
God, yeah. Yeah.
to to pick up the pace on this AI infrastructure. Like you see Amazon throwing $5-10 billion,
Brother,
and
brother,
then you
brother.
have Meta doing the same thing.
In Texas right now, where some of my family's from, I'll send you the link at some point when we get off. And don't quote me verbatim, but I can tell you they're building a data center that's going to cost over $100 billion. You think they're not investing in this? You think they don't mean it? Uh, if you're not paying attention, I liken you to a body of water in Egypt. You're in denial. So figure it out because it's coming. You can't hide from it, and closing our eyes isn't going to solve the problem, right? That's not going to solve the problem. Let's get with the times. Let's know what's going on. I mean, these jokers aren't just doubling down on their AI investments, they're tripling, quadrupling, hundreds of billions in one massive data center. And it's going to be, it's going to be something that doesn't stop. And I'm sorry, Jonte, I'm just plugging my device into a charger here. But yeah, I mean, listen, this ain't going anywhere. In fact, this is going to be the new norm, right? Uh,
Yeah,
the
I
only
agree.
question, the only question that I think we'll have is where are we going to build the data centers? Is it going to be on land, underwater, in space, right? That's the only question I think we're going to have over the long term.
Yeah, I think space exploration is definitely an option. That was one of the reasons they went to see it if
Oh yeah, them fools
they
are
can go.
plotting. Them fools are mapping shit out. We know that. At least for anybody who's
Yeah,
paying attention, because when you advance, you have to do advanced things, and you also have to think outside the box. And I would not be surprised what the plans for that are. I wouldn't be surprised right now if they're building some kind of connection between the human brain and robots that can work in space that will be, yeah, I'm an electrician on Earth and I'm controlling a bot on the moon who's doing the job of an electrician to build a data center. I would not doubt that, as crazy as that sounds.
you know, to be honest with you, I think that's kind of what Neuralink does with that Elon's company that's setting up. It's kind of like an AI implant into your brain.
Yeah,
So
to
I'm gonna
connect,
do.
to
I've
connect.
been doing exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The research you've been doing, what have you been seeing?
Yeah. So Neuralink is he's saying it boosts your mental capacity with it's an implant, an AI implant in your brain. You know, I'm not 100% sold on it, but
Until
that's
they
one
hack
of the big
into it and
three
play that
companies that
Rick
he has.
Astley. Until they hack into it and play that Rick Astley, never gonna give you. Like, oh, where's this coming from? No, it's scary though, man. That stuff is, but I'm not necessarily bought into it either. But um, what we do know is that AI is not going anywhere. It's not,
Yeah, that
right. Um, and we're gonna
I
have
agree.
to find ways to adapt and integrate it into what we're already doing, including the trades. In some cases, it already is, like the robot dogs that are like running around job sites and
The
mapping out
security.
floor
Yep.
plan. Yep. And but here's another thing. I don't know if you just saw this article recently. The textile industry in India, they're looking to replace those fools. They got them wearing little cameras right now on their head to watch everything their fingers are doing at sewing machines. What do you think they're doing that for? Train AI. Get rid of them. Why would we need humans when we have machines that can work nonstop, right? With that kind of
That's true.
stuff. Again, I would be interested in seeing what a fully automated robotic electrician looks like. I don't know when those are coming, but no, Dante, I appreciate what you do for the trades, the message you try to get out, the stories you've shared with me, your initiatives for what you do for workforce, because this is the future, man. It's a full circle moment. Like I said, the trades were the past, but the trades are also the future. You're never not going to need people who can build and build properly. The difference between a human electrician and a human plumber and an AI robot plumber, AI electrician, um, a lot of what building is separate from the mathematical component and kind of like the skill is, critical thinking, problem solving in a fraction of a second, right? Using your intuition. AI don't got no intuition that I know of. So, that's another thing when we talk about why building is so important and why it's going to last is for all of those reasons, right? It's not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. And if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you better go learn to swing a hammer. I'll tell you that right now. Because if not, when I pass you on the street as you're begging for money, I will give you what I have. Uh, but there may not be many other options for you to obtain currency. So go learn a trade and learn one fast.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That one of the you had me thinking about the high school kids. I talked to an entrepreneurship class recently, and a lot of them were going to school. We had a few that wanted to get an MBA, and that would help them. But one of the biggest things that my recommendation was to do your research. Make sure that your position that you're training for will be around when you graduate, because there's a high probability that your position that you're training for now may not be in existence when you graduate in 4 years. That's how fast this workforce is changing.
Oh man, no, you said it perfectly. And can you just imagine? I mean, and I go back to a couple things I've said on this podcast thus far. Imagine working hard your whole life to get good grades, right? To play by the rules, right? And your family's pushing you. Hey, you got to go to college. Your teachers are pushing you. You're so bright. You got to go to college. Man, you would be a genius in this field or that field. And you go to college and you take out all these loans and incur this debt or have your family pay for it. And you're working so hard and you're studying your ass off and your finals are making you anxious and you're getting all the way to this point and you get that diploma and you cross that stage and you're ready to take on the world and you realize that there is no position left for you in the world based upon what you designed your whole life by. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, it's scary to think, but it's happening right now,
Oh,
and it's
without a
only going to
doubt.
get worse.
It's going to get worse. Uh, you know, um, but focus. Young people who might listen to this, focus. I would even say too, and again, you can think of me like a wannabe Nostradamus. Just kidding. In regards to some of my predictions, I think we're going to rethink the way we educate. I think that we're going to start taking an emphasis off of having classes that don't pertain to the career you're going to take on. I think that education, the future of education, is going to look like AI integrated lessons, possibly even learning from home and VR. I think that education is going to be centered around skill set development and expedited skill set development to get young people to the careers that are left. I don't think there's going to be much else. And maybe that's a little on the darker side of things, but that's what I think is going to happen. I think that we're going to rethink not just our workforce, and let's think about this for a second. How do we get people to their workforce? Well, we start when they're kids and we start educating them, don't we? Uh, and if the workforce changes, education changes. The home dynamic changes, right? How you feed yourself changes. How you clothe yourself changes. Everything changes. Where you go changes, and that's what we're in for.
Yeah, I agree. That we talked almost an hour so far.
Hey, Jonte, I could chop it up with you
Hey.
all day, man. I mean, when you and I talk about this kind of stuff, being on the phone or through Instagram or on this now, my couple times being on here, man, this is, I mean, it's our life, brother. And I'll end
Right.
it here because I want to be conscious of anybody who's watching this and may have to go to work for a job that might not exist tomorrow. But you're like asshole. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I love talking about this stuff, and I love being on here with you, and I love the fact that you provide a platform for folks who bring different perspective from the trade, and you offer your own. man, salute for you for getting this thing off the ground. And every time I come back, it gets better. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and we'll definitely keep in touch and keep these conversations going because they're needed.
Right on, brother. Well, long live the trades.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Thank you, sir.
No problem.